privates, and they have very little management in the middle of those things to have processes in place. And that's one of the things we continue to see there. It's unfortunate. All of our counties had a lot on them, as the Secretary said. I mean, most of these people didn't sign up for this. But those are the details we have on that. As the Secretary said, we're going to be launching the ENR site, election night reporting site, at 2 o'clock today. You'll get to see everything that exists as it's already been uploaded, and they'll continue to upload through the night. And we have given a deadline to the counties that if they do have a change in the outcomes, they're going to recertify at the county level by noon on Friday. And then we take all those changes in, we will then certify that afternoon. And as I understand at that point, that the governor may then have to recertify again and send that up to the electors list again to DC. So with that, I'll take any questions. Justin.
There's a federal lawsuit being filed against the Secretary of State's office today saying you improperly purged 198,000 people from the voter rolls. Did you purge 198,000 people from the voter rolls who should have been there?
I'm going to go with no. Frankly, I've not seen or heard of this lawsuit yet, but we follow federal law, which basically says there's a window of 90 days before any federal election. And for Georgia, essentially, we had the presidential preference in March.
This is from the purge last year.
And let's not call it a purge. It is federally mandated list maintenance. No one's getting purged. And let's be very clear on this. Your name remains on our books. If you move away to Georgia and you move back, you get the same voter ID number. We know who you are. Nobody's being removed who's not supposed to be already removed. There are 3 ways to get on that list. And I'm probably going to forget one at this point because it's been a while since I had to talk about this, because in 2020, we don't do any list maintenance. You die, so then you're off. There's NCOA, the National Change of Address, and that gets loaded on, and we look at those things to compare the ones that are there. There's the return mail, which is if the elections office, the county elections office, sends you something and it gets returned to them, they then send you another letter saying, hey, are you still there? And if you don't answer that, then you get put on the inactive list. Then it's like, depending on where the election cycles fall, and the new law we passed in 2019, it's either 7 or 10 years before you get removed from being an active or inactive person. You go to canceled status. So I'm going to go with no on that. I know our processes and procedures, and I'm shocked to even hear that anybody's even attempting to do that at this point when we have so many bigger fish to fry. Yes, ma'am. I'll find out. I didn't read that. I just saw that this morning when I walked in. He was not happy about that. Yes, sir.
Have you heard directly from the president or the White House since your comments yesterday?
Me? No. Seriously, doubt I will. I do not believe he has either. I mean, you saw the response to the tweet about what was stated here yesterday. Then it was simply to ignore it more than anything and to keep on doing what he was doing. Anybody else? Yes, right. I don't know. I think we have to do it within 7 days, but we still do the ballot run. There's several steps we got to go through, but it'll be pretty quickly. And then once he gets certified, he can go up and get sworn in for the remainder of the term, which will be up until, I guess, the swearing in of Nikema Williams. Emil.
How similar or dissimilar is the uploading process for the counties for this recount as opposed to election night that we were doing?
It's going to be relatively similar. They're not going to have many cards to put into the EMS on the front end, but they're going to be able to just basically take the jump drive and put it into the ENR. We're using the same CIDL system we normally use, so it'll look the same to everybody as well. Yes, sir.
The investigation, I understand things are fluid here, but the investigation into the outside groups for the January 5th runoff, is there an estimated timeline on how long that investigation will take, or when we can hear from you guys about anything?
Well, when you keep on kicking over rocks and keep on finding new things, it always expands the timeline of the investigation. So I don't have a timeline yet. I'm not an investigator. We do talk to Francis Watson, our chief investigator, regularly to see where we stand on these things. But let's remember, we have 250 active investigations just from 2020, the majority of which have been coming from the general election. And I think 18 of which surround absentee ballots. And then we have these new ones coming in about third-party groups. And I'm not sure how many of those qualify in the ones that are trying to potentially encourage people to commit felonies by registering illegally. But we are continuing a pace on trying to track these things down. And part of this is about making sure they act responsibly. Third-party groups have every right to register people. They don't have a right to encourage people to break the law, to confuse and frighten people by sending things to their dead relatives, and then it undermines the overall confidence in the system the same way that President Trump's comments are. I mean, I find it somewhat ironic that Stacey Abrams is coming out and claiming the higher moral ground because she set the stage for a lot of this by her claims that the system was rigged. It's the same thing, two sides of the same coin. And both of them undermine the system and both of them undermine democracy. I was talking to a friend of mine from D.C. yesterday, and he said it was crazy how the left was undermining their own voters from believing in the system, and now it's crazy that the right is doing the same thing. And we're seeing now the left is exploiting that. We see these billboards up saying that Loeffler and Perdue were not there for Trump. We don't need to be there for them. Discouraging people from voting is not the right way to go about this. Fight about your values, argue, engage, persuade, win over the votes. All the stuff we're talking about here is election administration. Everybody has the same access to these things. Let's go to the drop boxes real quick. That some Republicans are upset about drop boxes. They say it encourages ballot harvesting. This secretary helped pass a law that outlawed ballot harvesting for the first time. And if you really want to talk about what's less secure, the drop boxes are monitored 24 hours a day by video cameras. A United States Postal Service box isn't. So somebody can walk in with 300, stamped envelopes and put them into a USPS box, and it's less secure than if they try to do it under video surveillance. All these steps are there evenly for everybody. How you choose as a campaign and as a party, as a consultant or whatever to use them is up to you. In my life, in my old life, I used to be a political consultant. I guess some people know that now after the last 24 hours. I used to say, however the hell you want to vote, go do it. And I'll encourage you to do it that way. And we loved banking votes early in early voting. We loved banking votes in absentee. It was a great way to make sure you got those players off the field and you could focus on who was left. I mean, some of this stuff is blocking and tackling for both parties. But it's important to realize that what we do is we set the stage, we set the playing field, and everybody has to follow the same rules and everybody has the same opportunities. That is the goal. That is the goal. Yes, ma'am. Claire. Okay, take it off. I can't hear you. Yes. If it's one vote different, they have to recertify. So that's what we're really seeing is 1, 2, 3 off, and if some of it's going to come down to the adjudication differences, the hand-marked absentee ballots, which is where you see all the issues. The BMD ballots are great because there's no doubt who they voted for. Voter intent is absolutely certain. But the hand-marked paper ballots are the ones where we see adjudication. You look at it differently. There might be an overvote that wasn't caught before or adjudicated slightly differently than it was in the earlier, both the hand audit and the earlier count. So if it's off by one vote difference, they have to recertify that particular election. And then if one county has to recertify one vote, then the state has to do the entire recertification again. So we do know that those counties exist. I do not have a count of them. Hopefully by this afternoon I can tell you. In fact, we could probably all look at the ENR side by the time we do another press conference, and we'll know exactly how many there are. Yes, sir.
There's a couple of states that have hearings tomorrow on issues and concerns that have been raised about voting in Georgia. Is that helpful? Do you all plan to participate?
I know we were invited to participate in at least one, and I think any discussion of election processes can be helpful on the education side. Because what's happening right now in large part is the president and his lawyers are exploiting a lack of understanding of a lot of these situations. The situation we saw in Gwinnett that was being looked at by people who have zero clue about how elections work was spun up into something of data manipulation when this young man was simply, I'll say it again just to clarify, the election management system is the sort of the brains of the election operation. There is a report on there called a batch report, which basically says we have done this many batches, there are this many ballots in these batches. And he was taking that report off because to save money, there is no Excel on the EMS because there's a license you have to pay for that. So they took it over to the county computer. And having no understanding of that, we have people out there from QAnon and other things saying, this man is committing treason. They're exploiting the lack of understanding. They're exploiting people's fears. And that's what leads to all this stuff. So any opportunity to answer these kinds of questions to the senators or representatives or anybody who wants to have a better understanding of how the systems work and about the real security and process we have in place will be welcomed. Yes?
I know you guys are wary of double voting. Can you kind of clarify, if you voted somewhere else, say in the general election, are the runoffs not a different election?
Runoffs are a completely different election, and whether you voted in it or not, you can vote in the upcoming runoff. If you're a registered voter in Georgia, that's fine. All right. Yes, sir.
Is your estimation still that you would recertify Friday afternoon?
Yes, we have a cutoff deadline for the counties to recertify by noon on Friday, and we will do it at some point after that once we get all the final uploads and make sure everything is correct. That it? All right, thank you all very much. Have a great day.